morning, everyone. It is Thursday, October 23rd, and welcome to Up to the Minute. I'm Andrea Bonner, Chair of HCC's Consumer Arts and Sciences Center of Excellence, and I'm joined today by Linda Davis, who is the Operations Office Manager for HCC Northeast, and Linda's going to tell everyone how to find us today. Linda?
Top of the morning to you, Andrea. We are live on Houston City College District's Facebook page and Not HCC and YouTube. We're also on X, LinkedIn, and on HCC TV at noon, 5 and 10, Monday through Friday.
Thank you, Linda. For Thursday Family Fun Day, we will visit one of America's most historic homes for a day of learning and celebration with Dr. Lindsay Chervinsky, who's the Executive Director of the George Washington Presidential Library at Mount Vernon. Welcome to the show, Dr. Chervinsky.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're glad to have you, and we will see you in a few minutes. But first, we're joined by an intrepid musician on a big adventure. Welcome, Marshall Falcon. Welcome to the show, Marshall. Think you're on mute. We really want to hear what you have to say.
Maybe now? All right, yes. There we go.
Yes.
How's everybody doing today?
We are well. Welcome to the show. And I
Thank
know
you.
Before we got started, you were talking about some of your adventures. So let's hear about it. So you're currently on tour, but that tour has another goal, circumnavigating the globe. So tell us how you came to want to do that.
I've been a musician, a large majority of my life. I've probably logged in close to 3,000 shows as a musician. I didn't really stretch out and go internationally, previously in the other projects I was in. And I just feel like now the time is right. I was doing audio engineering for a little while, and I ended up kind of putting that over into the back burner. And I decided that I wanted to just go back out on the road and see the world. And so, yeah, the attempt is probably over the next 6 months to go all the way around the globe, all the whole of Europe, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico. I just left Iceland the other day, and I literally left Dublin, Ireland this morning, and I'm currently in Birmingham, England, or Birmingham as they pronounce it here. So, but yeah, I'm having a great time. There's challenges, and but yes, it is an adventure. It's a lot of fun. You got to be quick on your feet and head on a swivel out here. You never know how things are going to go. But right now, it's still early in the tour, so I don't look sleepy or tired yet. So this is only day 3. So.
Well, that's exciting. So you are a native Houstonian and what I love, a former HCC student. So tell us about your HCC experience and how that contributed to your success now.
I had been, sometime as a musician, when I was doing a lot of touring, I finally came back to Houston. I was living in California for a little while, and I moved back. And, I've always wanted to just go back and, kind of start school again. There were fits and starts with college for me. While I was real young, I went in. I don't think I was quite ready for the discipline that was necessary to do it. But later on in life, I did that. And then the first place I went back to was HCC when I moved back to Houston. And, getting through all the prerequisites is basically what I was working on there. And, I guess at the time I was immediately interested in, English and writing. And that sort of ended up being where I found sort of my niche for writing. And that, of course, applied into songwriting as well. I eventually moved back to California for a few years, and I went to Miracosta College to complete my associates. Then I went to California State University, San Marcos, to complete my bachelor's in literature and writing studies. And just about 5 years ago, I went back and finished a master's in business administration and management at Northwest Christian University, which is now called Bushnell University. So, so my college career or time frame, it's gone over a lot of years. I mean, I probably started, in the early 90s after I graduated high school. And it was 2016 when I got my master's. So I would just find time in between tours and in between the work that I did. I'm very thankful for HCC. I met a lot of friends there, people that I still I'm very close with. But yeah, that was kind of the start there. I loved it. It was a great place to meet a lot of folks and network with people from all over the city. My experience there was amazing. So I'm very thankful for my time there at HCC.
Well, I love hearing about your educational trajectory from HCC to getting your MBA and on all of those things. So, how did you get from preparing for a business career to being a musician full time? So, tell us about that.
I started out as a finance major. I actually, took a few classes at the University of Houston while I was there. But it was just I kept leaning more and more away from business and more towards the arts and humanities, and I just found that I had a knack for writing, and so I just decided deep into my prerequisite studies to decide to go into literature and writing studies. Of course, when I went to Cal State San Marcos, there was also an incentive in that I had done so much like prerequisite work. They told me, oh, well, you can get your bachelor's in 3 semesters. So I was like, I'm going to definitely jump in on that. And it was great. I got to, do a lot of writing, and, I was in a band at the time. So, all of that sort of interconnected, and it was really well done. It all came together, and it just, it felt right. It was something that, that I derive a lot of, satisfaction from, songwriting. It's a very simple craft sometimes that, people think, but it's also difficult too, you have to sort of delve into deep emotions sometimes. I mean, most of the music I write, I'd say 95% of it are based on true stories of my life, and, or being out on the road, or, the personal trials and tribulations that we all have, and so I like making those connections with people, and as much as I love sort of the dynamic of the educational system, I also like just getting out on the road and getting out on the streets and meeting people. I had an incredible time last night in Ireland. I met some amazing people. And it's all about just getting out there. I've never been to Ireland before in my life, and so I had one person that I could connect with there, and so I went and met him, and it was just an amazing time. He introduced me to a lot of people. Looks like there's more festivals that are going to be coming up next year in Ireland for us, and so yeah, this is all about just going out, having a good time, networking with folks, doing a little business and a little pleasure.
I love that, kind of hearing about the art of songwriting. I've never heard anybody break it down like that, but you've done a lot of great things. So you're also a visual artist and you are an audio engineer. You spoke about that earlier. How does having several ways to express your creativity help you to be a better artist?
Somebody that an example that I've heard of recently, Tony Bennett, singer who just recently passed away. He was an avid painter. A lot of people don't know that about Tony. I didn't even know that about Tony until very recently, just before he passed. And he would say that, going and doing art allowed him to, sort of get away from the music, because he would get tired of the music. And so, he'd say, oh, I go to my art, and he'd do his art. And by the time he was, into the art, he would get the itch to go back to do the music. And I don't know, I feel like visual art, songwriting, lyric writing, all of that is, it's all intertwined,
Yes.
and it's a lot of fun. But once again, it's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that, I'd like to continue to do until I can't.
I love that. So, a couple last two questions. First, what advice do you have for people or musicians, whether they're musicians or not, who want to travel? You talked about never going to Ireland, and sometimes people are like, "Oh, I can't go. I'm scared to go." What advice? And then, lastly, I'll let you close out and let everybody know where we can find your music.
Sure. You know, it's a leap of faith that you have to take when you're going to go out on the road. And you have to be prepared and you have to be flexible because things change. All kinds of emergencies might pop up, or different things happen. Sometimes you have musicians that have to cancel and you've got to find replacements. So it's a very fluid situation out here. So you got to be willing to be flexible. And as much as this kind of business revolves around being in a certain time frame, you also have to be willing to roll with the punches. So a lot of the tours I left on, I didn't have enough money to get back home, and that's how it was. And you just took the leap of faith and you just went out there and you worked every day and you sold some merch and you put some gas in the tank and you got to the next town. And that's all it is. It's just one step in front of the other.
I love that. Now, where can we find you, Marshall, as we're closing out?
MarshallFalcon.com. That's 2 L's on the Marshall, and that's Falcon like the bird. Caca.
I love that. Well, thank you, Marshall, and be safe on your travels. We'll definitely be checking out your music. So up next, after a commercial break, Linda will take a trip to Mount Vernon.
Why wait on your dream job? At Houston Community College, tuition is only $33 per credit hour, with flexible schedules, over 100 programs, and campuses across Houston. HCC makes it easy and affordable. Your future for less. Houston Community College. Move your future forward.
Poison Help is a free 24/7 hotline that answers all of your poison questions in over 100 languages.
Hello? Poison Help?
Hello? When poison happens, we're here for you. Just call Poison Help, 1-800-222-1222.
Dear Santa, my mom says I'm a good helper, but you didn't come last year. I just really hope this year when I wake up, I'm gonna see that you came to my house too.
Donate today.
Welcome back, everyone. And we're moving on to our Thursday Family Fun Day guest, Dr. Lindsay Chervinsky, our Executive Director of the George Washington Presidential Library at Mount Vernon. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Chervinsky.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, we're going to have some fun and learn a little history. So give us an introduction to Mount Vernon and the George Washington President Library.
Well, Mount Vernon was George Washington's home. He inherited it from his older half-brother, Lawrence Washington, and he expanded it greatly over the course of his lifetime. He lived here with his wife, Martha, her children, her grandchildren, and their various other family members, as well as the enslaved community and the hired workers that also lived on site. When George Washington died in 1799, the estate went to his nephew, Bushrod Washington. And in the 1850s, the Mount Vernon Ladies Association was formed to protect and preserve this estate because the federal government and the state government of Virginia did not want to buy it, and it was in a state of disrepair. So, since the 1850s, the Mount Vernon Ladies Association has owned and operated Mount Vernon and made it open to the public, including during the Civil War. We don't take any federal or state funding, and we are open 365 days a year. In 2013, the Mount Vernon Ladies Association opened the George Washington Presidential Library. Now, he had been talking about a library since 1797, but it took us a little while to get around to it. So we opened it in 2013, and it supports research and writing on George Washington. It produces amazing digital resources. We have public programming that is available in person and online, and we have a leadership institute based on Washington's principles.
Wow, that is awesome history. Now tell us, let's fast forward to today. So coming up November the 7th and 8th, you'll be having the 2025 George Washington Symposium with the theme of the American military at 250. Give us an overview of that event and how people can get involved virtually.
Absolutely. So this is a symposium we have every year, but the topic does change. So this year is the 250th anniversary of the creation of the Continental Army and the Marines. And so we are honoring the history of the American military, George Washington's contributions and his role in that founding, and then looking at where we are today. So over the course of those 2 days, we are going to have talks and panels and various conversations on things like the American Revolution around the globe. What was the experience like for the average soldier in the war? What were some of Washington's greatest leadership contributions, and of course his flaws, and what we can learn from them? What life was like for women during the revolution? What is the history of civilian control of the military? And then, of course, where that stands today.
That sounds like all fun stuff and very interesting information. And history can be fun, and people need to know that.
Well, you're right. I think so many people think history is boring because when they were in school, they had to read out of a textbook. I don't like textbooks either, so I don't blame anyone for thinking that. But really, it's a bunch of big personalities who did a lot of crazy things, and we really focus on the storytelling here because that is what makes it accessible and relevant for us today. We would encourage all listeners to sign up for the virtual program. It's only $25 for the 2 days, so I think it's a really great deal, and you will have access to all of the videos and the conversations. You'll be able to learn from the experts that we are bringing, and you can actually submit questions online, which we will incorporate into the event.
This is great. So someone said, if you don't know where you've been, you won't know where you're going. So let's go back and let's talk a little bit about the Continental Army and why was it so important beyond just the battlefields?
Well, it's a great question. So the Continental Army was formed in July of 1775, a full year before the Declaration of Independence. And of course, by the time it was formed, I should actually say it was in June of 1775. Got to correct myself. Before it was formed, the war had actually started in April of 1775 with the battles of Lexington and Concord. So Congress created this force. George Washington joined them as commander-in-chief in July of 1775. And then they had to kind of figure out, how do you actually have one army? How do you have a national force when you haven't actually declared what you are yet? So the concept of the United States of America was still a year in the future. And Washington and the Army were tasked with trying to basically create a national identity, a national culture, something for all of these soldiers to rally around before that had been declared. And that was a really challenging task because the different colonies and the troops that they sent had very different cultures, very different experiences, very different backgrounds. There were enslaved people in the Army. There were free Black soldiers in the Army. There were people from Massachusetts and South Carolina. And so trying to merge all of those experiences and inspire them to pursue one goal was essential. And this is, I think, one of the greatest contributions of the Continental Army is it did start to identify what it meant to be a nation, not just 13 states. And they, I think we see the impact of that when the federal government was actually formed and the new Constitution was formed in 1780, taken into effect in 1789. Most of the federal office holders had been veterans.
Wow. Now, speaking of which, these soldiers became our first veterans. So how did they continue to contribute and serve?
Well, so many of the officers in particular went into public service, and this was true at the federal government, this is true at the state government, and at the local government. We see really unbelievably high rates of veteran participation after the war. Now, not every veteran was treated the same, and a lot of veterans really did struggle because Congress took several decades to actually pass pensions for former veterans, and they were applied unequally because not everyone had the same sort of records to demonstrate their service. But the concept of the veteran, and certainly the concept of public service, was an incredible testament to the legacy of the Army.
That is awesome. Now, we know that Washington was a founding father, but what do you see as his most important contribution?
So I think there are two. The creation of our republic depends on two foundational touchstones. The first is the civilian control of the military, and the second is peaceful transfer of power. If you lose either of those, you are a different kind of government. You are no longer a republic. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad system. It just means it's something else. And both of those foundational touchstones are a direct product of Washington's actions during the war to prevent mutinies and military coups to take over Congress, his decision to step down as commander-in-chief after the war, and then, of course, his decision to relinquish power and retire after 2 terms. That made possible that first peaceful transfer of power, which the American people had to be taught to cherish and to participate in.
Exactly. Now, before you go, we want to know, what other online resources do you offer for learners of all ages?
Gosh, we have so many online resources. There's so much that we can share with you. So if you go to our website, which is mountvernon.org, we have a number of resources online for the average visitor, average reader. If you go to mountvernon.org/library, you will find all of our library resources. And this includes our podcasts, our digital databases, so you can see who Washington was communicating with, what the world of the 18th century was like. And perhaps most importantly, especially for teachers and students, we have a digital encyclopedia of Washington's world. So there are accessible articles on everything from what farming was like in the 18th century to different battles and everything you can possibly imagine in between.
Well, we want to thank you, Dr. Lindsay Chervinsky, for making learning fun. Dr. Chervinsky is the Executive Director of the George Washington Presidential Library at Mount Vernon, and we'll have your information in the post after the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, coming up after a quick commercial break, Andrea and I will return with some hot news and announcements. Don't you go anywhere.
¿Por qué esperar para el trabajo de tus sueños? En Houston Community College, la colegiatura es de solo $33 por hora de crédito. Con horarios flexibles y campus en todo Houston, inscribirse en HCC es fácil y accesible. Houston Community College.
When a child is sick, there's one thing they need: a really big cookie.
Welcome to RMHC.
We're not big on poking sticks and beeping machines, but we're the best at playing dress up. We think the Tooth Fairy should travel everywhere, and while hospitals have doctors and nurses, we have mom and dad. Because at Ronald McDonald House Charities, we help families feel at home, even when they can't be.
Our individual voices are powerful, but not everything has a voice. Let us be a voice to the voiceless. It's time to speak up for nature.
All right, Linda, you mentioned a lot of great things that we've got going on here at Houston City College. Always a lot of stuff going on, but why don't you start and tell us about this Human Trafficking 101?
Well, Human Trafficking 101, HCC Counseling and Ability Services is collaborating with The Landing, presents a webinar to provide participants with a foundational understanding of the serious global issue. It's going to be Wednesday, October the 29th at noon. It's online via Microsoft Teams, and you can check out the information after the post for more information.
Thank you, Linda. The deadline to apply for graduation, I'm always on my students about this. Don't forget the deadlines. Don't miss them. If you are graduating this semester and want to walk the stage on December 10th, and we want you all to walk the stage, you need to apply for graduation by November 3rd and register for commencement by November 14th. There's 2 different ones: register for graduation and for commencement. Visit hccs.edu/grad-checklist for all the details. You're going to apply for graduation by November 3rd, register for commencement by November 14th, and we will have the link in our post after the show.
Virtual reality for empathy workshops. Reality Collab and the Center of Healing Racism are partnering for a film and virtual reality event that invites participants to experience immersive VR simulation that explores social issues, lived experiences, and diverse perspectives through storytelling. And that is going to be November the 15th at 9 a.m. to noon at HCC Central Campus. Check out the post for more information after the show. Andrea, what's going on with, what is it, free groceries at HCC?
Free groceries. We love free groceries. Free groceries at HCC. HCC helps students experiencing food insecurity, which is a big issue with a lot of our students. So our Eagle Market and the Mobile Food Scholarship Program helps with that. It's ongoing and it's at all locations across the district. And we're going to have that information in our post after the show. And Linda, can you believe that it's already time to register for spring classes? What's going on with that?
Well, while everybody's taking out their fall and winter jackets, you can start registering for our spring classes because spring registration for 2026 is open right now. Spring 2026 registration is open. HCC offers a variety of semester lengths and start dates in several modalities, including, get this, in person, online anytime, online on a schedule, hybrid and hybrid labs. So register early to get your preferred classes and times. To learn more about HCC programs, start dates, and options to cover costs, please visit us at hccs.edu/apply. What's coming up tomorrow, Andrea?
Coming up tomorrow, which is Friday, I'm so excited. We'll have a Fine Feathered Friday with the Houston Audubon Society. I can't wait to see that. So everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Everything is bigger in Texas. Our skies, our landmarks, our love for our state. But nothing's bigger than when a Texas legend unleashes those 4 immortal words.
Don't mess with Texas.
Dear humans, this is an adoption campaign, but it's not for me, or Mr. Buttons, or Frank over there. It's for you, humans. This is a call to humans to adopt our movement, to adopt our cause.
This isn't just about saving one of us.
It's about saving all of us.
Thousands of lives, every single day.
It's about support for every one of us 4, and sometimes not 4-legged best friends waiting to meet a best friend of our own. With Best Friends Animal Society leading the charge.
Shelter by shelter.
City by city. We can save thousands of pets each day.
Join us.
Together we can save them all.